Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to any newcomers who are with us this evening. I always say this at the beginning of these sessions, but it's just a drop-in session to see what I'm doing in my studio, not billed as a workshop or anything like that, but hopefully you'll pick up some tips along the way. I hope so anyway. If you enjoy this and you'd like to like and subscribe, that would be very nice for me, thank you. You've got a chat button, please use it, tell me where you are, ask questions. I've got Rob here as usual, working all the sort of technical stuff behind me. He'll pass any questions you have to me and I'll try and answer as many as I can this evening. So let's get started. So just a quick update on what's been happening since I last saw you. So the exhibition that I always tell you about that was about to happen with the little deer that some of you saw me make opened yesterday, and that's on for a month and then it'll move up to London. So that's particularly exciting to be able to say you've got a piece in a gallery in London, so I'm excited about that. The other thing is I've got another exhibition coming up in January, again in Wales, in West Wales, in Tenby. And I'm going to be putting 2 pieces into that show. I haven't quite decided which pieces I'm going to put in yet, but I think some of you may have seen this piece that I made a while ago called Woman in a Silk Scarf. Now I've actually done a little bit of extra work to her. I wasn't happy with how she was. I felt her shoulders weren't broad enough and her neck was too long. So what I've done is I've raised her shoulders and I've given her a coat. And I think I prefer her now as she is. And I've got a bit more tweaking to do to her, but this is I might put this one into the show. I quite like her, and well, I'll think about it. I'll have a look and see what else I've got. And if I've got time to make something specifically for the show, then I will, but I'm quite busy at the moment because I've got various things coming up and I've got a couple of commissions to do, so we'll just see how it goes. But oh yes, thank you, Rob. If we can have this overhead shot now, I'll just try and show you her a little bit better. Can we come in closer? So I don't know if you can see her face. She's got quite a wicked sort of look to her, I think, the naughty grin. And I was sort of channeling my Audrey Hepburn, what's the other one? What's the other? Oh, Grace Kelly look with the headscarf and the raincoat. So anyway, that's how she's looking at the moment. Things may change again, but that's how she's looking at the moment. So I'll put her to one side for a minute. So the commission that I showed you last time that I was part of the way through, it's still not finished. It's a massive job, this one, doing these 3 figures, which I think last time I showed you they were still separate, but they're now all joined together, and the clothing is more or less sculpted. It's all got to be coloured, and as you can see, the boys have now got their hands on her shoulders. You can only just see the one boy's hands there, and obviously here's the other hand, but it needs a bit more work. I've got to do some sanding on it to refine it a little bit. And if I show, it's still a bit damp actually, so I'm being careful how I turn it round. But here's the back of it. This was incredibly complicated, getting all their arms in the right places. So there's still a bit more work to do, and obviously the arm has to be, this arm has to be coloured. There's a little bit of his arm you can see just underneath the shirt here, which has to be coloured. And then she's actually got, this is one of her arms, and the other one is here. She's got her arm sort of round the waists of her boys. So it was very complicated to do this piece, but it's getting there, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to finish it in the next week. So I hope that by the time I see you next, I'll be able to show it to you, unless of course I've delivered it to the client, in which case I'll just have to show you photographs of it. But yeah, it has been quite a massive task to do this piece, but very enjoyable, and I think I think it's turned out pretty well, really. I hope the client thinks so as well. So I'm just going to move that one out of the way. I've got it on this board at the moment, on the messy board, just to keep it flat. So, last time I saw you, we were working on our piece. Those of you who are new to this site, we've been working on this piece together right from the very start. It was a start to finish, it will be a start to finish piece. So we started making the armature out of newspaper and masking tape, and at the last session we had started to put some clay, papier-mâché clay, onto the piece. Now what I've done, you'll notice, you who have got good eyesight, that I have actually done a little bit on it since I last saw you. I know I said I wouldn't, but what I've done, because we're always so short of time on these sessions, I've actually worked on this leg to start actually shaping it with the clay, and I've also worked on the thigh and the back of the thigh here down to the knee and the start of the buttock there, just so that you can see how it's going to look as it progresses. And this evening I'll work on this leg and try and match it up to this one to show you how I did it. The other thing I want to work at is just filling in this area here at the base of the back, and just to blend the back, if you like, into the bottom here. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing this evening, if you're all still happy to follow along. I hope some of you are working on your own version of this, and for those who haven't seen this before, this is our reference picture that we've been using. So it's a good, clear, simple standing pose, nothing too complicated, and this picture is good because we've got front, back and a 3/4 view. The other reference pictures we've been using, we've got a skeleton here, just to see how the skeleton fits into the piece, and we also have a back view skeleton with the flesh applied. Now I'm also going to use this new photograph this evening, just a picture of a woman in bra and pants, because it's just a good way of showing how the thighs fit to the buttock, how the buttocks overhang slightly here, and how the small of the back works anatomically. Okay, so we'll be using probably just these two pictures this evening. So we'll get started on this now. Oh, I know the other thing I was going to tell you before we go on with this, is one of the other things I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. It's a rather strange project. My son, his partner, who as of today is now his fiance, so big news. Congratulations, Sam and Kelly. Kelly works in a nursery for children, and she has classes. She's got a class of about 10 3- and 4-year-olds, and she's asked me if I'll go into her class and do a little project with them with papier-mâché. And as it's October and Halloween is coming up, we thought we would make pumpkins, just little pumpkins that small hands could cope with. So what I've been doing is making just very rough armatures of a pumpkin. I've got to make 10 of these. I've made 2 so far. So these are just made in the same way that we made the armature for this figure. So they're made with scrunched up newspaper and masking tape, just to get the basic shape. And this one, I've actually started putting the clay on just to see whether it works. This is my sort of prototype. So there's the bit that is the armature, and if you see, I used some twisted masking tape here to make the separations, to make the sort of segments that you find in a pumpkin. But the rest of it I've covered with the papier-mâché clay. So what the children are going to do, they're going to be given one of these and some papier-mâché clay, which we'll have a look at in a minute. And it should be fairly simple for them to just use their fingers and spread the clay, with a bit of help from some teachers, over the armature. And then they'll end up with something that looks like this. And then, when it's all dried, the teachers can then paint them. So all they have to do is paint them orange and a little bit of green on the stem here. And then they can seal them with some glue and a bit of varnish. And the children will have some rather cute little pumpkins to take home with them at Halloween. So I just thought I'd show you that because it's quite a cute little project to be doing. So anyway, back to our figure here. So the first job I want to do is, if we look at our reference picture here, I quite like the way that the shoulder blade here is quite pronounced, because she's actually just bringing her arm back a little bit, which is making this shoulder blade stand out a bit. And when you look at our figure, she has actually got a bit of this shoulder is slightly further back than that one. So I think I'm going to try and just do that, have the same effect with this shoulder blade, just to give a bit of interest into it. So I'll just take the top of my clay. So I'm sure all of you have seen this now. This is the clay that I use, and it's the recipe of Johnny Good, who, if any of you know about papier-mâché, will know that she's the sort of guru of papier-mâché. And you can find it, I think we've put a link, haven't we, on? There's a link at the bottom of here somewhere to her site if you want the recipe for this clay. And it's beautiful stuff to work with. I know some of you do use this. So if you want to have a go at making it, have a look at her website. So I'm just going to, this will be a very simple job just to make this pronounced shoulder blade here. So all I'm going to do is just to add a little bit of clay there. Just use a bit of water on my finger to spread this. I want it to sort of overhang a little bit. There's a little bit of a dent in there.
Angela Marsh is asking how tall the figure is, because she thinks hers is smaller for some reason.
Let's just measure it. Do you want it in inches or centimetres? I'll give you both just to... I think probably her feet are going to be about here. So if I measure it from there, I think it's going to be, well, up to her shoulders or her neck, it's about 24 centimetres. I haven't actually got an inches ruler, but 24 centimetres, which is quite big for me actually. I usually make things a bit smaller than that, but I think for the purposes of demonstrating, it's easier to make something a little bit bigger. I think you can see a bit clearer. But I mean, it doesn't matter what size you do your pieces, the principle is the same. So there's my, see that? We can, if we find later that this is too pronounced or not pronounced enough, we can alter it. Everything can be altered. And I think you can just there's a very slight indentation on the other side. So I'll just make a little bit there, but it's very slight. Oops. There. So that's just when it's dry I can alter it if I want to. Okay, so now I'm going to just sort out this base of the spine and into the hip area. Now I'm not going to be too fussy about this because she's actually in the other she's got a jumper, a sweater that's overhanging this, so we're not going to see much of this detail anyway, but I do like to have a good skeleton underneath my pieces so that it makes life a lot easier to sort of hang the clothes onto something that's anatomically fairly accurate. Okay, so there's a definite curve here at her waist leading to her bottom, so it definitely curves outwards here, so we just need to reflect that. And also this groove in her back carries right down into the buttocks, so we want to keep that. And also you can see that the waist curves in like that, and what you can see there with my pencil, where's my pencil gone? You can see that the waist curves like that, and then this area that you can see here is actually, I think, more on the side and the front of her. I'm going to curl this round. So if I show you from the side, you can see that it's definitely curving outwards that way and this way. So always try and think 3D, not just in one direction. So I'm keeping this little valley here. Keeping the curve this way. And then blending it up into the back. See, it's so easy to use your fingers on this. I think, you use tools only when you actually have to, because your finger is so much better implement really for doing this job.
Liz is asking, do you always go to so much anatomical detail when you're going to cover it with clothes?
I do really, because as I said, I think it's easier then, especially with this particular piece that we're doing, because what she's wearing is so figure hugging. Those jeans are like a second skin on her, that really when it comes to putting the clothes on, all we'll need to do, if we've got the leg shape right, all we'll need to do is just put in a few creases here and there, and we'll give the impression that she's wearing a pair of jeans. And then when it comes to the jumper, you can see here she's got shoulder blades under this jumper, but it'll hang away from her body. But because we've put the shoulder blades in, it'll help us to hang it so much better, and it'll look so much more realistic, in my opinion anyway. So that's how I work. I do like to give myself as many hints as possible to help me put things in the right place, and I personally find it a lot easier to see what I'm doing if I put these little visual clues. But I mean, it looks as if this takes ages and ages to do, but you know, we're doing this little bits once a month. If I was working on this just by myself in here, I mean, I'd be whizzing through this a couple of hours, and I'd have, you know, completed a lot more than I managed to do when I'm just showing you on one of these sessions. But obviously, you know, everybody has their own way of working, and if you find that you prefer not to do all this, then you know, do what's easier for you. That's what I love about this. Actually, you know, there's no rules. Do what you think best. Right. So I think now with that we've got a very slight twist in the body, which gives a bit more interest. So that shoulder is definitely coming back, and there's a little bit of a twist in the waist, but so tiny. It's hardly there, but it just, all those sort of things gives the piece a bit of realism, I think. So there we are from the side. You can see that it's now filled out a little bit. And when we put the arm in, that shoulder being slightly further back will make a lot more sense.
Angela says her clay is darker in colour than yours. Do you know why?
Oh, no, I don't actually. I suppose it could be the sort of flour you use. Do you use corn flour? I make my mix with corn flour in the first mix, and then I add in a little bit of plain flour at the end just to bring it all together. So I don't know whether the flour, you don't use wholemeal flour or anything like that, do you?
Could be anything, couldn't it?
It could be
any of the ingredients,
yeah.
Slightly pigmented.
Yeah, I mean, do you put baby oil in, or do you put linseed oil? Again, you know, whatever mineral oil you use could have a bearing on it. I always use baby oil, which is very clear. It could be the toilet paper that you use. If you use recycled paper, that can be a little bit more natural in colour rather than white. I don't know, it could be anything.
Linseed oil would be a bit darker, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would, yeah. And I know that in Johnny's recipe, she says that you can use linseed oil if you like. I always use baby oil because I think it smells nicer. I just don't like the smell of linseed oil. Right, so I'm happy with that for the moment, and as I said, you know, we can always adjust things later. So now, and this buttock here, I think I probably will bring it out a bit more to make it more rounded, but for the time being I'm going to leave it like that, because I think this evening what I'm most interested in us looking at is this area around the top of the thighs and down to the knee. If you can see on the one that I've already had a go at, I think I've got the nice sort of overhang of the buttock here and the shape of the thigh, because do you remember last time, those of you who watched last time, we looked at this area and we said it looked a little bit like a butterfly and its wings. So it comes round like that, it goes in a little bit there and then round again here. So you get this slight dent here, and on most ladies' thighs, sadly for us, we tend to have a little bit of extra flesh around here. And so that's what I've shown here. You see on this picture, even this skinny girl here, her thigh bulges out slightly there. That's where women tend to hold a bit of fat. So that's what I've put in here. So now we're going to do the other leg. I'll show you how I did this leg by doing this leg. Actually, it wasn't a great idea to do that back first because I'm trying to hold this now without touching the wet bit. Anyway, a good way to get the shape of a thigh, because you know you tend to have, if you sit down on a chair, a thigh will sort of splodge out a little bit just there. And the way you can indicate that is to think of a muscle that starts about here in the pelvis area and runs down the thigh to the inside of the knee there. And if you put that in place first, you can very clearly see how to get the shape of that thigh. So it's probably easier if I show you and say it. So what I do is I get a blob of clay, quite a big one, like this, and then I'm just going to roll it on my leg like this, like I'm making a cigar or something. So I get a sausage shape like this, and I'm just going to place it on the model, and I'm going to put it down to the inside of the knee like that. Okay, and then looking at my reference picture, I'm going to squash the sausage shape down to the inside of the thigh like that. And then I'm going to pull it over to the outer thigh. Now what we don't want is to lose the shape of the knee that we made last time, so I'm just going to pull that round like that so I don't lose the knee shape. But if you turn it sideways, you can see that you get the rounded shape of the thigh by doing this. And you can just manipulate this to get it where you want it. So you're starting now to get sort of the indentation there where the leg meets the sort of groin area. And then I need to bring out this side bit here. So it's curving round. Here's this line that I put in, coming down here, and now I want to show this curved area going around the thigh. So if I look at the skeleton picture, you can see it here. Here's this. There's a muscle that comes down like that. The bone is there. The fleshy bit is here, and the flesh I'm going to add on is going to come around like that to the knee.
Angela is saying, can she mix the baby oil after having made the clay for over 2 days?
I don't think so. I think you'd have to do it as you're making the clay. I mean, I've never tried, but it all has to be so mixed in together. I don't think you could. Does that mean you don't usually add oil at all?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the purpose of the oil is actually, but it certainly makes it nice and smooth. Well, I assume that's what the oil does. As you can tell, I just blindly follow Johnny's recipe because it always works. I don't question it, it just works. Right, so we're starting to see the shape of the thigh now. So I think in a minute I'm going to turn it round and have a look at the back. That's okay. And what I also want to do, while it's still wet, I don't know whether you can see on this leg, but as I said, the jeans are skin tight, and just by putting some little lines to indicate the wrinkles on her knees where these jeans are pulled, everything else is really taut, but over the knees they just wrinkle up a little bit. So while it's wet, you can literally just, I put a bit more clay on just to mark out the knee a little bit better. She is really quite a knock-kneed girl, this one. The knee comes right round like that. I mean, it really is it's got terrible posture. So I'm just going to, with my nail, just wrinkle up the jeans a little bit like that. I'm trying to keep everything quite smooth because it'll cut down on all the sanding later. You want to have your piece of work looking quite smooth. So, can you see the wrinkles in the knees of the jeans there? Just bring it round, just under the knee a little bit here. Right, okay. So here we are so far. Now we need to sort out the back of that thigh. So I'm going to go back to this picture now. Now you can see here the buttock really is quite rounded here, and then the thigh is also very rounded here. There's almost like a little ledge underneath the buttock, which we want to try and get in because that's a nice effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just put some clay to round the buttock off. And you'll see on the outside there's hardly any crease at all. It just goes pretty much straight down. So Angela, are you sticking pretty much with me on this? Are you, or are you racing ahead when we're not online? You'll have to have a look at yours when you've finished it. In fact, anyone who's making theirs, we should have a little show and tell session when we finish this, and we can all show each other what we've done. I might have to use a tool at this point because getting in here is a little bit fiddly, so I use this, well, where's the camera? There, I use this tool, which is like a little spoon shaped tool, and I'm just going to create this little shelf, rounded shelf.
Angela's not racing ahead, just doing it together, she said.
Oh, very good. Well, looking forward to seeing yours. So do you do it as actually in real time with me, or do you do it afterwards? Right, so now I'm just going to just pull this little bit around here. Here's this little fat, I think they're called fat pads at the top of the thigh. It just bulges out very slightly. I mean, this girl is so skinny, she's hardly got any bulges. I hate her already. But we'll just put a little one in there. I mean, she's got to sit down on something, so she must have a bit of fat somewhere.
Yes, so she watches the video and does it with you.
Oh, lovely. So I'm just going to pull that, spread the clay down here, round off the back of the thighs. Keep turning your work and looking, because very often, you know, you don't have to slavishly stick to the picture. Sometimes I just look at it and I think, no, even though the picture appears to do this, I don't want to do that, so I just go my own way. Now try not to let any clay that you've put on the front of the leg dry in the wrong position. I've got some here that's tucked around the back of this knee, and I'm just smoothing it out, blending it in while it's still wet, because otherwise you'll end up with a big lump. Use my tool again here just to get to there. Now, I don't know whether any of you do this, but what I sometimes find is to use a wet paintbrush. You can just manipulate clay, especially in awkward corners. Don't have it too wet, but you can just get your paintbrush in, and it just helps to move the clay around a little bit. What you have to be careful about though is that you don't get it too wet, because then it starts to go a little bit streaky and you lose your nice smooth finish. So I tend to do a sort of combination of using the brush and then smoothing it with my finger. So now I've just got this little gap here now, and that actually is where we've got that little dent that I was talking about, that is like the butterfly's wing. I'm just going to, with circular movements, just fill it in there. Okay, so we're starting to get some shape now. I want to just go back to this reference picture now, just to see how the back of this knee flattens down behind the knee and then bulges out into the start of the calf. So the knee has sort of bulged out slightly this side, and then it flattens down. Sorry, I was trying to move forward and put my head in the way. Right, I'm falling foul a bit here of something that you do need to be careful of, and I obviously haven't been as careful as I could be, and that's where the masking tape is underneath. I've got a bit of an edge sticking up here, which is showing through the clay, so I'm just having to manipulate that a little bit to make it lie down flat. So I'm flattening out behind the knee, and then I'm just going to just take this, it bulges out a little bit here with the start of the calf. And remember last time I was showing you that in the picture here, the inside of the leg is straight, the outside is curved. The outside is curved, the inside is straight here. So that's what I'm just trying to maintain here. Okay, so there she is so far. I think this leg looks ever so slightly thinner than that one, so I'm just going to a little bit of clay here. I'm quite happy with that. Again, use your eye. I know lots of people take measurements and do all sorts of things to use formulas for how long a thigh bone should be against a shin bone and all the rest of it. And I do that to a certain extent, but I think you can't beat just looking and seeing with your eye how something looks. So you know, don't just sort of blindly. It's very easy to get so engrossed that you look almost too focused in on your piece, and it's good to sort of stand back and have a look at it from a distance. Another good thing to do, I'm sure you all do this, is to take photos regularly of your piece as it's progressing, because all sorts of flaws show up in a photograph that you don't see when you're just looking with your naked eye. So I find that very useful. I take lots of photographs. Also, looking at something in the mirror is another good way to spot mistakes. Right, happy with that now. So if I'm just looking now at the reference picture here, I'm just looking now to see the shape of the buttocks, whether I've got that right. And I think that she needs to just come out a little bit more on the top here. I think it needs to be a little bit more rounded towards the top of her bottom area. I think where we did this rounded bit earlier, it could do with being a little bit more rounded.
Liz is having to leave us because she's got childminding to do.
Oh, okay. Thanks for coming, Liz. I hope to see you next time. Happy sculpting. It's quite interesting actually seeing how numbers on these videos that we make go up. I mean, we get a nice bunch of people that come and watch them live, and then over the weeks afterwards people tend to watch it on the recorded version of it, and the numbers gradually go up, which is quite gratifying really, because you know, it's nice to know that people are actually watching.
Liz is going to make a pumpkin with her 4-year-old grandson.
Ah, good idea. Yeah, good.
So if she sends us a photograph, we'll show it.
Yeah, definitely we will. Yeah. If any of you want to send in stuff that you've done, you know, so we can all have a look at it, feel free to do that. We'll try and put up as many as we can.
It doesn't need to be this, does it? It could be anything.
No, anything. Whatever you're making. I'd love to see it. Well, I sit here every month showing you all the things I make. Get your own back. Show me what you make. Right, so one little bit more here, and I think back of her will be more or less done. Pop a look and see how it looks.
We ought to have a slot every month of viewers' contributions.
Yes, yes, and I think we're saying that perhaps at Christmas or something we had the little gallery or something, but you know, we'd have to wait till Christmas to do it. We do it whenever we like, won't we? Right, there, so got quite a nice bottom. If only I could sculpt my own bottom like this. Make it just as I want it. Be handy, wouldn't it, if you could sculpt whatever figure you wanted. Right, so can we have a close look, Rod? Is that how's that distance from? Right, okay. So here she is now. I think it's starting to shape up a bit now. There, so obviously her legs aren't going to be this long because we'll have to cut her off at some point. She's still got her sticks sticking out the bottom of her legs, but yeah, this is how she's shaping up so far. And I think what we'll do, how are we doing for time? 10 minutes. Right, what we'll do next time, because I think probably that's all we're going to do on this for this evening, because it needs to dry a little bit so that I can actually get hold of her properly without spoiling her. So we obviously need to carry on down to do her shins and then start thinking about feet. But I think probably the next job we'll do is to sort out her torso and start perhaps adding the features of the jeans, because really I'd like to do the pockets and things of the jeans and any other creases and things that we want to put in to show that this is not a naked body, it's actually very skin tight jeans. And once we've done the jeans, then we can start to add the jumper to get the folds and it overhanging the jumper. And at some point we're going to have to add some arms, but I don't want to put the arms on yet because it'll hinder us getting to this area if she's got, because her arms are going to come down and across her body. So I want to be able to have good access to her body without putting the arms on first. And then I think we'll have to do a whole session on doing a face. I'm not necessarily going to do this face that's in this picture. I might just find a nice picture of a suitable face, and we'll do a session on sculpting a face. The other thing that's has she got hands? Yes, she has got hands, which are actually in a quite tricky pose because they're clenched. We might have one of her hands in a pocket or something, and perhaps just sculpt one hand in a not too difficult position, so that you can see how to sculpt hands. I used to dread doing hands. I was always hiding them in pockets and things, but now I love doing hands. So that's something that we can have a whole session on if you're interested. Do drop me a line and just sort of say if there's anything specific you would like me to go over. I mean, if you think I can help at all with anything that you're working on or wondering how you're going to do, I'm quite open to suggestions of what we can do in these sessions. So feel free to send them in. Okay, so I think that's where we're going to leave it for this evening on this one. What else was I going to say to you? Oh yeah, just a few sort of bits and pieces, bits of news. I do workshops in my house, so obviously it's only really possible for people that live in the UK to come and do them. But my October class is now full, but I have got 2 spaces left in my November one. So if anybody is local or close enough to come and do a workshop and would like to, then do get in touch, and you can have one of these 2 spaces. It's the workshop is over 2 days, so if you're coming from away you would need to stay overnight somewhere, but we cover all sorts of things in the workshop, and by the end of the 2 days you've had a go at all the different processes, from making an armature, making the clay, making an armature, various colouring techniques, finishing, sanding, all that sort of thing, and you'll have at the end of it a piece that you've made that you'll be proud of, I'm sure, because all the people that come and do my workshops, some of them have got experience of sculpting already, but others are complete beginners, and they are always surprised at themselves at what they produce, and they always make lovely things. They make all sorts of things actually. I've got lots of head and shoulder pieces, lots of animals, space creatures, all sorts of things, but they always make lovely things. So if you're new to it and you feel you want to come and have a hands-on session with me, then let me know. Okay. Our next broadcast is going to be November the 6th. That's the first Sunday of the month. If you want to look back at previous broadcasts that I've done, I think there's now 5, is it? No? Is this the 5th one? Yeah, I think this is the 5th one. The others are still all up on YouTube, so if you want to watch them, they're there. Go and have a look, see what you think. Okay, so are we done? Any questions? Anybody want to ask me anything before we finish? We've got about 5 minutes left, I think.
There's no questions we haven't dealt with, I don't think.
Right, okay. What else can I tell you? Just for 5 minutes. What can I tell you? Oh gosh, hang on. I've got to try and sort of stand this up now so that it doesn't get damaged. That's the trouble with these things. I've got all sorts of ways of propping these up. I usually stand them in a glass actually. So I'll just do that over here.
We can't see what you're doing.
No, I'm just trying to put this down somewhere so that it doesn't get damaged. I'll just rest it on its side, I think. I'll try and get some photographs of the pumpkin session that I do with the children, because I think it's going to be a riot actually. 10, 3 and 4 year olds. It's going to be noisy, I think, and messy. But the great thing about papier-mâché is that you can get it all over you. I mean, my fingers, look, I've got it all over me now, and it just dries and crumbles off. It doesn't mess your clothes up or anything. So I don't think any of the mums and dads are going to worry about getting their children getting messy. What else? I can't think of anything else to tell you. I've finished rather early, haven't I? Yes, okay, well, I think we'll stop there then. Rob's going like this to me. So, thank you very much for coming and joining me this evening, and I hope you'll come back in November and watch another session. So, thanks very much, and bye for now.